Hi everybody, welcome to Beloiter, episode 2. Thank you for tuning into our show, a show that brings two Beloiters together and have them get to know each other through questions and discussions. Alright, hi, thank you for coming to our show.
Absolutely.
Can you please introduce yourselves, maybe with like name, major, and year?
My name is Linden. I'm a senior computer science major and a musician.
Hi, I'm Mary Fairbriggs. I'm a senior anthropology and religious studies double major and not a musician.
Right, thank you. Okay, so we have Linden here and Mary here. Thank you for coming to our show again. So we have a theme, and this week's theme is work-life balance. So basically, I think you guys can guess what this is, but it's basically, how do you balance academic work with extracurricular activities like clubs, also like if you do sports, varsity intramural, how do you balance that? Social life, how do you throw that into everything that's happening in your school life? And of course, like life out of Beloit and also after Beloit. So that's like the big theme of this week. And maybe we can start off with a question of what you guys feel, like how you guys feel with the balance that you have in your life right now. Do you feel pretty comfortable with like balancing out academia with the activities that you do outside of academia and friends? Would you like to start us off?
Sure, yeah. For somebody who's only taking 2.5 credits of real class, rounding things out, making myself a full-time student with a special project, I'm finding myself surprisingly busy. I think there's certainly some innate pressure on campus, just being a college student, to fill your time with whatever you may. So even though I don't have, quite as much homework, I find myself, putting more time into my extracurriculars, my fraternity leadership, stuff like that, my on-campus jobs,
Yeah, I think that is always a constant struggle to figure out the balance, and it's taken me definitely up to the 4th year to really feel like I've nailed it, and only recently because I had applications and stuff that were due, so you're always playing a game, essentially, trying to figure it out. So in between taking, like Linden, only 2.5 real credits, but, honors thesis and TAing, kind of helping to round it up to be full-time. It's actually surprisingly so much work that you didn't realize it would be. And along with being a co-president of Anthro Club and trying to fit in my workout every day and somehow manage to have time to spend with friends, it's really complicated, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices.
I like what you said about sort of it being a game or taking it week by week. I find is something I find myself doing. I'll see, look back at how I budgeted my time last week, what I may have not gotten around to, and then sort of be like, I need to change things up a little bit, change how I'm viewing things in my life.
Yeah, flexibility I think is really the key here. Yeah. You've mentioned that you have Greek life. What's that like at Beloit? I'd be curious to know because I'm not in Greek life.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll preface it by saying that I would absolutely not. I don't think not be in Greek life if I weren't going to a school where the culture is like it is at Beloit. It's very laid back here. It's I found it to be pretty open, pretty accessible. But at the same time, I'm the treasurer of Tau Kappa Epsilon, and we haven't been in the best financial position these last couple of years. And so even though it has been a really fun, accessible thing for me, and I think a lot of my brothers, I've found my time being taken up a lot by that, and it's if we'd been in if I'd come into it in sort of a more stable position, I think it would be less of a scheduling concern.
I see.
But it certainly taught me a lot about leadership, because motivating a house full of 18 to 21-year-old men to do things that they don't necessarily want to do is a skill, and you sort of need to do everything yourself and then put in half again as much time getting other people to do it, is what I found. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
Right. Yeah, I can really feel the passion when you speak about this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. For you, you've mentioned you're the club president of
Yeah.
Anthropology Club. Sorry, that was like a redundant comment there, but so you're the president of Anthropology Club. What's that like for you balancing that out with your life at Beloiter?
It's a lot, and I think that's sort of, I guess, like what Linden's getting at is it's not just your responsibilities, especially I think living in a house, like I think we both do, because I live in Anthropology House. It's like full-time mentorship too with younger students, so you're not only trying to plan all the club events and try to make sure that those go well, and do we have enough money to do things, and
But you're worrying about that, like when you graduate, like, is this going to be in the same
is it still going to work?
hands? Yeah.
And are these younger students going to be ready to take it on? And am I modeling the best behavior possible? Which is why it's so important for me to model like how to balance things, because I don't want them to think that they have to totally give up their lives for Anthropology Club, but I also don't want them thinking that it's, a part-time like job that you can just quit whenever you want, because it does take a lot of responsibility. But overall it's really fun because you get to constantly be talking with people you like about stuff you enjoy every single day, so it's really exciting.
That's wonderful, thank you. You two must like share a lot in common in that respect, because like you're both seniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you both are in these positions where anybody who is not a senior basically looks up to you and asks you advice, or maybe just like wants to hang out with you. So how does that kind of dynamic play into your social life?
I think it does a lot. Just I think that having the house really as my basis for this here is you kind of find yourself bonding with younger students in really unexpected ways. So my housemates and I will all sit around sometimes and watch RuPaul's Drag Race, which I got them all into, or do other things like that. Like we watched Heathers last weekend, so really bonding over movies and film and late night waiting outside the bathroom kind of stuff. So it is also though really trying to instill in my younger housemates the values that I would like to see them have, and sort of learning how to be a professional, and also learning how to have fun though. So in your social life, really trying to model how to have fun responsibly, while still having them come away with a sense of respect for you. It's a lot of pressure.
I totally agree with that. I think one of the most valuable things for me about being in TEAC is that it gives me sort of, I spend a lot of time around the house, but I also, some of my best friends are not in TEAC and have no interest in Greek life. But I think one of the most valuable social things for me is just being able to live somewhere where I can consider all of my housemates friends. And, if I leave my door open, people will come by, say hi, and, not certainly, I don't know, like I'm not really close to everybody in the house, but that's just how it's going to be when there are 35 other members.
Wow.
But it's just sort of like a passive, positive social spectrum every time I'm in the house, and I found that to be really valuable.
Yeah, and I think that, because I'm also a TA, and I've done that before a few times, and really realizing how much you have to learn from younger students, I think it's easy to sort of think, oh, I'm a senior, I know everything, or they're just, looking up to me, but also realizing that I take away so much from them and from what they have to tell me, and what they've had me learn about myself is really awesome. So it's definitely, it goes both ways.
Absolutely. I had a really good experience. We were trying to put together our the TEAC float for the homecoming parade.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. That means a lot.
Fun too.
I did a lot of work on that the previous year that we did it. I think that was the year before last, and I decided that I didn't really want to be as hands-on, so I was going to try delegating. So I formed a sort of a committee and asked them to do different things, and there's this one guy in the committee who he didn't really seem very interested in doing any of the things I tried to get him to do, and then when it sort of clicked for me that he's this huge artist, and I asked him to do the aerosol art that we had on the side of the car, and he loved it, and he was like, this is what I need. He told me exactly what I needed, and he just did it straight out, and definitely sort of experienced a learning moment as far as like how I was delegating wins. You need to play to other people's strengths and learn from them.
Yeah, so I really think that's a very, very valuable skill to have. It's not just a skill that's based on like calculation. it's like a heart-to-heart connection.
You need to
we
know
have.
people.
Yeah, you get to know people, and I think in the process you get to know yourself as well too. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that episode.
Absolutely. I mean, and there are a lot of other times, especially in the house, where you can't really play to people's strengths, because like if our kitchen's dirty, it needs to be cleaned. I can't just be like, who's really passionate about doing dishes? Like,
Oh my gosh,
sometimes there's the other side of the coin, and sometimes you just start to be like, this is happening right now. I'll help you do it, but
Yeah, dishes are
you got to
the
do it.
Right.
You sound more active. I'm like, I'm not your mom. Please do the dishes. Please.
Come on, like.
Yeah. Okay, so we have some questions from our listeners.
Awesome. Awesome.
Alright. So this is a really big one. Okay, so are we
Head on. I'm ready.
Okay. So this person wants to know, what's your definition of life? And in parentheses, they've added, what do you do for fun other than academic work? And how does that tie into life after Beloiter? So that is a huge question. I know I just threw it out there.
Okay, so the first part was definition of life.
Yeah, but probably what they really wanted to ask was like the second half, which
Yeah.
is like, what do you do outside of academic life, or maybe like the academics that you do, or like the classes that you take, or you do music, so
Yeah.
like the activities that you do in general as a whole at Beloiter College, how does that like tie into life after Beloiter?
Okay, so I think that for me, a lot of my life at Beloiter does revolve around academics, but a lot of it's because I really love it. A lot of what I do is, clearly I really like anthropology if I live in the house and I head up the club.
Right.
But I do find it really exciting, and I do find it really interesting, and moments of growth to learn about people.
Mhm.
And I think that there's this way that we kind of assume that I would study exotic peoples and all that, but there's so much that I learn about myself as I study people, and no matter where they are, and I can do that at the Beloiter College campus and learn just as much as when I went to Korea. And for me though, life is a lot about how to balance the academic passions that I have with stress relievers like yoga and Pilates, and I really like movies, like I'm a big film buff. So I think life is all about finding ways to do what you love in ways that are very healthy, because I think if you put too much into one of the things that you love, you stop loving it as much.
I definitely don't feel as passionate about computer science as I think Mary Fair feels about anthropology, and that's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally, and I think I've learned a very important lesson about sort of what I'm looking for after college in my entrepreneurship course that I'm taking this semester.
Ooh.
And there's a lot in that course in sort of the philosophy of entrepreneurship, like what it means to be an entrepreneur, why people do that is really finding a balance between fulfillment and happiness and also being able to support yourself and finding success. And so I guess I'd sort of been assuming up until this semester really, it was like, oh, well, I'm studying comp sci, that's it, it's a STEM field, it's easy to get a job in, like, I'll be a developer and pursue my own other interests, like music is the big one, when I'm not doing that. And I'm realizing more and more this semester that really isn't going to be as much of an option, because why do I want to do something for that much time a day if I'm not going to be enjoying it?
Right.
So I think this semester I've started structuring my interests not only in looking into music, but also trying to find aspects of computer science and coding that I do truly enjoy, that I'm really really interested in, so that whatever my path may be afterwards, it will be something that will bring me fulfillment day in and day out. And that's regardless of whether it's academic or extra curricular. I think I mostly just look for fulfillment.
That's
something
great.
that makes the switches click.
Yeah, I really like that. I really appreciate both your comments. And I really am on the same page with you too, because for me, I feel, so would it be fair to say that most of your passions lie in academics?
Yes, that'd be fair.
And would it be fair to say that most of your passions at least in like the Beloit context, it lies mainly outside
Yes,
of academics.
absolutely.
And I would say like I'm torn between, like I'm trying to find a balance myself too. But what I find with what you've just told us is that it's really like the passion,
Mhm.
like what gets you excited, regardless of be it like labeled academia or not.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, those passions can be scary, I think.
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
Like I know I've applied for a Fulbright research grant, and if I get it, it's like, okay, I actually have to go to Korea and do this research project, not, you know, for a class. And that can be really scary when you commit to something that you love and you realize, like, I have no idea where this will even take me. So, we'll see.
No, I feel very similarly about pursuing music full time after school, because like, you know, all my family are always asking me like, oh, you know, like what do you think about your development job's gonna be, or like, oh, you're gonna be so well off, you know, it's gonna be great. And on the other hand, I've got one of my best friends, one of my bandmates, who always asks me this, like this semester especially, he's been like working on me being like, so we're gonna move to Milwaukee and like be a band full time and be broke and like love it. And I'm just sort of like torn between them, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe somewhere in the middle.
Right.
But yeah, it is. It can be completely terrifying, and I think it's really easy to get super wrapped up in it, especially senior year, because it's like, oh my god, I've gotten so comfortable here. I know Beloit so well, and like it's ending.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's nothing productive in getting wrapped up in it. You have to. I think it's important to realize also, no matter what you plan, you know, no matter how you inform your own skills, what you're prepared to do, what you want to do, what you end up doing is also going to be a product of the opportunities, the connections you have, which is something you don't always have control over.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I'm also a senior too, and I can actually really relate to what you're talking about, kind of because I'm a philosophy major.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those majors that gets this label of, oh,
Yeah,
so
you're gonna be a barista.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
like
totally.
a barista that's talking about like life in general, and it's like, does this reality actually exist?
Mhm.
Is this table real? Yeah. The coffee that you're drinking is fake. It's an illusion. You know. But I think what you've just shown us is that really what you know, if you pursue what you love, then the opportunities I think really show itself.
Like
to
nobody in the history of, you know, college graduates have been able to like perfectly set themselves up for something. There was always something else that clicked with their passion, with their preparedness, and worked out for them. And I don't see why that's any different for, you know, you sitting down at this table.
Yeah, life is surprising.
Definitely. I'm more curious about finding out like more of the specifics of what you just like told me. So like maybe if I could start with Mary, with the Korea possibility, Fulbright.
Oh yeah, well I've applied for a Fulbright, which would take me to Korea for a 10-month research grant. And that's because I went abroad in Korea and I did a project there and I got really excited about it with, you know, all kinds of nerdy things like thinking about evangelical Christianity and modernity and cosmopolitanism, things that I don't really think the Beloit community likes to think about that often. You know, evangelical Christianity is really modern and progressive, which is, I think, pretty shocking. So this is stuff that gets me excited, and it's not the kind of stuff most people think about in terms of Korea. They're like, oh, K-pop, K-dramas, and I didn't really know anything about that before I went. I know a little more now, so I ended up applying for the Fulbright, and we'll see if I get it. And it should be really exciting, and it's sort of, that was a curveball for me. I was supposed to go to India for study abroad, but last minute the OIE said, actually it's not safe, you need to rethink, and I could choose between Israel, Abu Dhabi, and Seoul. And I said, I guess I'll go to Seoul. And it ended up being something I really was super passionate about, and that I don't think that going to India would have worked out as well, and that I would have found out so much interesting stuff. So I guess it's a good example of life will really throw a curveball at you, and you can either really take it and enjoy all the surprises that come, or you can try to control it.
Yeah, it sounds like you discovered a passion in your field just totally due to the fact that you didn't get your first choice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool. What about for you, Linden? You've said like you're kind of torn between the idea of, you know, doing music full time.
Or maybe pursuing, well, I mean, and obviously, I feel like I haven't been giving my major enough credit. I really do love, like, you know, I would be studying computer science. I couldn't be studying computer science if I didn't enjoy coding. And I would not hate having a desk job. But at the same time, you know, I usually, the way I try to put it in my head, I currently play in 2 bands on campus. I play guitar and write music for a punk band, and I play bass in a sort of a folky thing called Opus Dog that we've been doing since freshman year now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so
second semester
You're
freshman year.
old!
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the leader of that band, Kirby Jays, he's the one who I would definitely consider like collaborating with the most in the future and pursuing music jointly. But
Wait, can I interject?
yeah, absolutely.
So when do you guys usually do do you guys do performances?
Oh yeah. We perform. This semester alone, we've performed once at the Music House, and we've performed once at Sea House. We're actually going to be performing at Sea House this Friday.
Everyone go!
Yeah, everyone. Did you hear that? There's a performance at Sea House this Friday. 2
campus bands, Opus Dog and Counter Forward, you're both going to be playing.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's something we've ran into that a lot on. It's important if you're a campus band to not play too many shows on campus. Because otherwise your friends will start being like, oh, you know, I'd love to come see you again, but I just saw you 2 weeks ago, like, why?
No. Do you think that has to do with the fact that we get like a lot of work to do, or?
Well, yeah, and it's just, you know, they're always hearing about it if you're in the band. Like, it's a much bigger thing to me than it is to them. So whenever I play a show, I'm so excited about it.
Right.
And they're just sort of like, well, yeah, you know, you're playing the same songs. I don't blame them at all. Yeah, you can't overexpose yourself. But yeah, as far as career lookings go, it's thinking about being an artist. I feel like you could probably relate a little bit.
Yeah.
Thinking about being an artist is really terrifying because a lot of artists either totally make it or completely don't.
Right.
But I'm not worried about making it because, I mean, I'm a little worried about making it, but the way I contextualize it is, the way I felt after the best shows I've ever played is this just all-encompassing, complete emotional high.
Right.
I've never felt that good, and it's not just like right. I'm like get off the stage. I'm just sort of like back to real life.
Yeah.
I'm like so on, just smiling. I feel amazing, and that's one of the things that one of my bandmates, Kirby, said to me. He was like, you know, sure you can go like try and be a software developer, or we could try to do that every night. And it's like even if I'm not making that much money or whatever, but like if I'm that happy every time I get off a stage, if I can get off a stage 5 nights a week, then that's pretty good.
That's really good, yeah, because it's kind of like the question of, okay, so do you hold your version of happiness and paradise to the weekend, you only constrict it to the weekend, or do you live it? Like, do you bring it every day, like every moment? And
the other thing is, a lot of my musical idols, like people who have made it, I've heard like John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, or what's his name? I can't remember. I've read actually covers, but I've heard these huge successful musicians who I just completely idolize. Both say like, we had the choice of pursuing something professional or pursuing our art, and we chose to pursue our art. Looking back, it would not have worked to do both. And so I also sort of have that like floating around the back of my head, like, you know, I may be telling myself like, okay, I could be a developer and do music on the weekends, but maybe I couldn't.
Right.
Maybe I couldn't.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. Yeah. Would you say like your experience in Korea really like pulled you in that direction? You know, like that kind of like what Linden was talking about. Oh my goodness, I'm really happy. Like, this is what I want to be doing. I can't do without this.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, when you're there, and I was doing a research project, and it was with Korean evangelicals, there was actually a lot of discomfort and a lot of like, I'm not used to this. Like, people are doing things I've never really experienced before, and never thought about it, and this is so uncomfortable. But it was great because at the same time, then I was like, why am I so uncomfortable? Like, what is it about me that's doing that? And then I was able to come back And I mean, I also ate great food every day in Korea
Oh,
and had
that
great
sounds
friends.
beautiful.
I went clubbing a lot, so it was like kind of an ideal life. Maybe that's partly why I want to go back. And then I was able to come back and sort through that experience and all the research and come to these really interesting conclusions. And it was exciting, right? You know, you make these connections, and then you give presentations, and you talk to people about it, and they don't understand why you're so excited. Or if they do, it's like, yeah, that's interesting.
You experienced flow.
Yeah.
It's not like I was describing it as happiness, but it's more than that.
Right.
It's you are completely in the moment. You
Yes.
wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and
Yeah.
you are like you're being challenged, but it's the challenge is completely meeting your abilities.
Yes.
And you know you just do it.
Exactly.
Flow.
You just do it, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think the flow has taken us to, unfortunately, at the end point of our show.
All right.
All right.
Firstly, and again, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having us.
Monica.
It was, I really loved the talk that you guys gave.
Thank you.
Like the
Thank
discussion,
you.
like the flow, that just like, it just flowed.
It did. Absolutely.
Flow.
And would you say if you were to leave like a comment for maybe like the listeners, maybe like advice of life, you know, what would it be?
I mean, sort of the same thing that I've said previously. It's don't get too caught up in mights or might nots or plans. Just strive and do things that make you happy.
Yeah, and don't measure your successes by anyone else's. I guess really find the balance that you need to be happy in your life, and that's not going to be the same as your friends, and it's not going to be the same as mine or Linden's or Monica's. And really just learn to own that, because you're going to get a lot of questions about why you budget certain time for certain things, and I guess just being able to say, I do it because I love it. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself unhappy.
There we go.
Boom.
Boom. With that, do what you love the most. Thank you so much for tuning in to our bi-weekly Beloiter to Beloiter show. We hope to see you within 2 weeks, and please check out Beloit Buzz, which is our new show, and see you soon.